This is the Home Service Success Podcast, your resource for growing your home service business through mindset development, sales, and marketing strategy. I'm Davis, joined by our awesome co-host and founder of Wit Digital, Steven. Our guest today is the owner of the #1 HVAC company in Dayton, Ohio. Having founded the business with only $274 in his pocket and a used truck, over the last 3 decades, he's built quite the brand and reputation within the Dayton community. He's a John Maxwell certified business coach, speaker, author of the books It's Your Dream and Build and Grow Your HVAC Business. He runs an annual HVAC Boot Camp and hosts his very own podcast. Allow me to introduce Greg McAfee, founder and president of McAfee Heating and Air Conditioning. Welcome, Greg.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
Of course. Well, thanks for joining us. You are kind of the definition of a self-made man, not only in terms of building your own HVAC company, but also in terms of building your own personal brand within the HVAC industry. So I want to kind of start with that. Like, how did you get started? What's your story? What's your background?
Well, it's a story that you would say that'll never work. It's one of those kind of stories because at 19 years of age, I knew I didn't want to go to college. My dad and grandfather both worked at Firestone Tire and Rubber Company. They were in factory work and distribution work. And at the age of 19, I was working 2 jobs. And my dad said, if you want in, I can get you in. We're moving to Dayton, Ohio, and you'll be in the first 15 of 100 people hired. And I said, absolutely. So I packed up my pickup truck and I moved to Dayton, Ohio, and I didn't know anyone. And I worked here for about 3 or 4 years, and I started breaking records until the warehouse manager posted them on the board. The good part about Firestone, it was United Rubber Workers, and it paid very well for a 19-year, 20-year-old. However, it was union, and they didn't like goals being on their board. So he had to remove them. And that made me think at 20 years old, what? You know what? You can't like win. So anyway, I joined the Marine Corps because I thought I'm not going to do this the rest of my life, as I watched older guys getting up and down off forklifts. And nothing against Firestone. It was a great place to work. I learned a lot. But I joined the Marine Corps and I served a couple of years, and I actually took 1 class in refrigeration just for the heck of it. And I did pretty well in it. And I liked it. So when I got out of the Marine Corps, I was still in the reserves. Firestone held my job. And I took heating and air classes at night and for a year's course. And I graduated. I left Firestone for a 50% pay cut to get into heating and air. And that's what I teach young people all the time. Sometimes you got to start off at the bottom to get ahead. And, in today's world, we think we need to start off at the top. And it just doesn't work that way all the time. So I worked for my first company, fired me after 9 months. He said, you'll never make it as a mechanic. And little does he know, we surpassed them in sales in probably 3 years. And they were in business since the 60s. But the second company hired me, put me in as a technician. I still needed to learn a lot. I didn't have enough experience to be a technician, but I had a gift to deal with people, and I started outselling their salesperson just by talking to people and asking questions. And your unit's 10 years old or 12 or 15, whatever it was back then, and would you consider a new one? And I would sell it right there. So as I started outselling that salesperson, he didn't like it. So now I'm right back in the same ballpark of Firestone. Don't list your goals, right? So anyway, they ended up closing down. They were doing all kinds of things wrong. And I got married, bought a house, started a business, all in that order in 1990. And I went out, wore out a lot of shoes, knocking on doors, making phone calls galore. Back then, we didn't have cell phones. We had landlines, and we had a crisscross directory that would give you everyone on one street, all their addresses and all their phone numbers. So I would just go down the crisscross and spend hours calling people. And I had a little script made up. And, if I got 1 or 2 calls a day, I was, out of hundreds of calls, I was doing good. So that's just kind of how I got started. It was a very slow process. I didn't know anything about business. I read my first business book was called Business by the Book by Larry Burkett. Is Christian-based biblical principles of running a business. And I read that thing probably 5 times, but that's what got me started. I still apply those principles today. They still work today. And but it was a very slow process throughout the years.
So you were a one-man show then for the first how many years? I mean,
I hired my first helper after a year. He ended up staying with me 10 years. But I hired my first helper. I started off at a kitchen table, and then I built a garage behind our house, and it was a 24 by 24 garage. I post pictures of it sometimes. It's got like 4 or 5 trucks in front of it.
yeah.
It was 24 by 24. We split it down the middle. We had half warehouse and half office. That's kind of funny. Anytime we had to reprimand someone, everyone had to leave the office. We had about 5 employees. We got up to 5 employees out of that garage. So it was one office. So can you guys step out while I have a meeting? And it's kind of funny today.
Step into the
yeah. But honestly, I sold the largest residential system job out of that garage. It still holds a record today. I sold $1 million job to a apartment complex who had old 1947 Lennox furnaces, and they wanted air conditioning added, and we added. So we put new furnaces and air conditioning. It was $1 million job, and he let us work over it like 2 or 3 years, and it was just mailbox money. We just, it filled all the slow times we had, and so it was pretty neat. But we were almost doing, excluding that job, we were almost doing $1 million a year in revenue out of that garage in 1997 when we moved. And I built a 11,000 square foot building on a 3-acre plot in Kettering Corporate Center. So it was a really nice area. And I leased out the front of the building, and I took the like 3,500 square foot in the back. And that was our true official professional building. And I started doing the opposite. At the garage, we delivered everything free. In the building, you had to come and get it because I wanted them in the building. It was pretty cool.
Are you still in that building today?
I sold it 6 years ago and tripled my size, moved right next door. This building I'm in today became available, and the owner needed a quick sale. Her husband had passed away, and she didn't want it sitting empty. So I made her an offer. She accepted. We had to renovate the whole thing, but it's got 30,000 square feet, so we can grow for a while here without. I had other little buildings like warehousing and training areas and stuff, and we sold all that, and we're under one roof today.
Yeah, no, I've seen a lot of pictures of your current building, and it's amazing. Like, it's a massive, like, if I was a customer out in Dayton, I would definitely want to come check out that office. It's really cool. So Greg, one other question for you, and it sounds like Stephen might have a question for you too here, but how much of your success today do you attribute to those early years, especially like, on your feet, calling people, really like learning the Dayton community firsthand? And now you're in the #1 HVAC company in Dayton. Like, and I think, your brand is super community oriented. So it's just interesting to me that those first years, you really took the time, consciously or unconsciously, to understand your demographic and your customer base.
And I didn't. I would love to tell you that I knew what I was doing, but I didn't. All I knew was I knew this. I needed to take care of people. That's all I knew. And the first year, I've got a picture of my desk. We had a little desk in a spare bedroom in our 800 square foot ranch. Was our first house, and we had a little spare bedroom. We didn't have kids yet, and on the top of the desk was 3 pictures of little league teams. So I started sponsoring little league teams from the first year. Since then, that has just multiplied by hundreds because we sponsor all kinds of children events, youth events, a lot of community stuff's going on, with the McAfee sponsorship behind it. But I started the McAfee way out of the garage, and I didn't even know it. There were just certain things that we do what we say we're going to do when we say we're going to do it. We pay our bills on time. I've always negotiated with suppliers for better pricing because we pay on time, if not early. And we always take a discount monthly, if we can pay by a certain time. I I share this with other contractors because a lot of people don't, they don't know this. And but you take care of your suppliers, they'll take care of you. And we always arrived on time. Quick little story: Marine Corps, disciplined, all that good stuff. But we did work for a guy that was he was a general manager of a large cafeteria here in Dayton. And we arrived at 8:10. We were supposed to be there at 8 o'clock. I don't know what happened. I can't remember. We got into traffic jam or what, but we didn't have cell phones to let him know we were running late. So his name was Vito Utilowski. I'll never forget it. So I walked up to the door. I knocked on the door. Nobody came to the door. I knocked again. Third time I knocked, the door slowly opened and he was standing there. Didn't say a word. And he looked at me and he said, if you were in the restaurant business, you'd be out of business. He said, we have to get there at 5 o'clock to open up at 8. And I go, okay, Yeah. And I have never forgot that. I mean, so we guarantee 8 a.m. arrival or 7:30, whatever it is today. We guarantee that time because it's the only time of the day we can guarantee we'll be there on time because everything else is a window of time. But I'll never forget that. It was a lesson learned. I mean, I almost lost a job over being 10 minutes late.
Yeah.
So we started that out of the garage, being on time. It's 31 years later, 30 years later, being on time is important. People's time's important. We don't want to waste their time. And we don't want to be like everybody else and just show up sometime between, 8 and 9 or 8 and 10 sometimes for our first job. Yeah. So a lot of the McAfee way that is implemented today was founded by a very strong foundation in the garage. And that's what I teach today is if you can get it right the first or second year, you're better off. You're going to have a better chance of making it 5-10 years.
I love Davis, you can always tell when I'm thinking about something, but some of the things that I'm already pulling out of this that I really want to hone in on for people listening is, Greg, a lot of the things you're talking about are simple, right? Like I think especially in today's world where we have all these Facebook groups and we have all these coaches, some are real coaches and some have no freaking clue what they're doing. But in this world today where there's so much stuff coming at the industry of, oh, you can do this, or oh, you can do that, or oh, you should have this huge $20 million revenue goal or $30 million revenue goal, or maybe you should be flying on jets and you should have a Ferrari or whatever it is, right? There's just so much stuff coming at the industry right now. But so many of the things that you've mentioned so far in the interview are all about keeping it simple and not overcomplicating it. So going all the way back to the very first book you read, you said you still implement those principles from that first book that you read. It's not like you've read 1,000 books and you try to implement 1,000 different things. You're picking what worked and you just keep doing it over and over. It's interesting that you said taking care of people is one of the most important things. And one of the things I wrote down before you even said that was this guy actually cares. And that was it kept coming up in the things that you were saying. So it's so cool to just see that you're picking these basic principles that worked or that you picked up along the way and just sticking with them and keeping it simple. Even like your first office in the garage, you didn't go out and need to buy this huge 20,000 square foot office right away for some silly reason. So it looked good on a social media group. Right. You kept it simple and you grew into it. And I think that's just such an important piece for people to recognize right now, because there's so many people trying to get into the business and there's so many people chasing the big guys, right? There's so many people that want to look and feel like you, but they're only at 1 million. Like it just takes time. Like just stay consistent with it and don't ever give up and pick the principles that work for you and do the work. So I think that's just really cool. And I wanted to anchor that in early on right now for people listening, that this is what got you there. And if that's what they're going for, like do these simple things. And one thing, Davis, I'm going to let you pick the next topic just to make sure I don't completely side rail this thing, which Greg, I'm really good at taking things in completely different directions. But one thing I really do want to talk about today is the community involvement piece, because I want to talk a little bit more about that. So Davis, I want to make sure that we work that in because I have some real specific questions around that.
Let's do it. No, that actually aligns very much with what I wanted to talk about, both from the brand building perspective, but also this has been a subject that Stephen, you and I have talked about with others in terms of the PR aspect, backlinking, how just embracing your local community, both online and offline, really grows your brand and your marketing. And it's just like, a positive reputation builder and thing to do. And it's fun, both from a cultural and a staff standpoint, and just from a, getting involved standpoint. So no, let's roll with it.
Awesome, man. So Greg, I have some questions, and because this is coming up a lot for us lately, and I'm seeing it in the industry. Like at WIT, we're really focused on helping build brands that serve the community, right? And so we're constantly trying to figure out, how do we help our clients have more community involvement? And then how do we tell that story so that that brand can resonate within the industry? What I also see happening is I see people getting involved in the community for the not so right reasons. They get involved in the community so that they can say they can do this and this and this and this. So I'm curious. And then the last thing that I see a lot, like we just took on a new client. They'll do like between 8 to 9 million this year, and they have more community involvement than almost anybody I've ever seen. And they've never once talked about it because he felt like talking about it would discount the actual commitment. So I would love to hear your thoughts on, like, how are you doing this delicate little dance, right? To where you really truly care, you're involved in the community, you're impacting the community, and at the same time, it's okay to talk about it, because that serves everybody. That serves you as a business, that serves your team, the families you serve, that serves the nonprofits and the organizations. It brings awareness to them. Like, did you ever have any issues with that kind of back and forth? Or
I don't know about, on a personal standpoint, I don't share a lot of what we do. But from a business standpoint, it's all about that. It's all about sharing how we're helping the community. I mean, part of one of my commercials said a few years back was, all our profits, we're privately owned and operated, and all our profits stay right here and are generated right back into the Dayton community. Because that's very important to me, because there's a handful of companies right here in Dayton that are not private or privately owned. They're owned by somebody else in another state, and sometimes another country. So it's very important to me to keep Dayton business in Dayton, and that's what I push and help through different other groups. That's what I help do, is keep business here in Dayton. Because Dayton is a great place to live, but it lost a lot of manufacturing. I mean, we had some huge General Motors and Frigidaire plants and NCR, and everything was here, and a lot of them left. So we want to keep small business and medium-sized business here in Dayton. But I am happy to be able to support, and I tell contractors all the time, pick something you're passionate about. I mean, for me, it's children. I mean, we're going to focus on children. Years ago, I used to say, children, they don't get to choose things. If they're stuck in the back seat with two heavy smokers, they're stuck in the back seat. They don't get to choose to roll the window down or leave. And, because of that, and because of a lot of other things, we just support kids, and we're about helping kids. And we said, well, how can we help kids the most that has to do with McAfee heating? Well, we're in the indoor air quality business, and we have been for years. We started air duct cleaning in 1993, had 2 trucks on the road by 95. I mean, air duct cleaning is very strong. HEPA filtration was huge years ago, and it still is, but we now have a lot of different UV and I waves and all that cool stuff. But so we decided to, I chaired a board of the American Lung Association. So, that's a perfect opportunity to get involved in indoor air quality, community, and it all ties in. So I was on the board, and then they decided to move. So they moved to Cincinnati. Well, I said, well, I don't want to move. I don't want to support Cincinnati. I want to support Dayton. So then we got hooked up with a local children's hospital, and we started our own foundation for children. And so the foundation is, all our employees give to the foundation. 100% of our employees give to the foundation. So I don't have any other charities coming in to McAfee except the McAfee Foundation. all those other charities that other companies push, we give 100% to the McAfee Foundation. And then the company matches everything that the employees give, and then some. So we're just able to help a lot of children. Some kids can't come home from the hospital until they have air conditioning. So we'll put an air conditioner in or fix an air conditioner. And some kids have to have asthma inhalers. We'll purchase inhalers. We'll buy gas cards for parents who have to come to the hospital several times a week. Whatever it takes, we're involved. And then we get to do a radiothon once a year and raise money for the hospital and all that kind of stuff. And we're just involved in children and families and anything that has to do with indoor air quality.
That's awesome. I absolutely love that. Like, it's just such an important thing right now that I wish more people were involved in, and I wish the people that were involved in it knew how to do like what you're doing and intelligently talk about it and be proud of what it is that they're doing in the community and not feel like they have to, to hide it. It's like some of the people that are doing it for the right reasons are hiding it because they feel like it diminishes the value. And some of the people that are doing it for the not so right reasons just go and talk about it all the time. And
right. Yeah.
Stuff like that.
It's all show. We do it because we truly care about kids. We have for years. And I'm just scratching the surface on some of the stuff we do. I mean, some of the stuff we do is so cool. Pre-COVID, we had over 5,000 people in our parking lot. We had truck or treat, not trunk or treat, truck or treat. We had the McAfee trucks out here. We had about 25 other businesses. Some competitors participated. We hand out candy to kids. We have all kinds of games going on and all that kind of stuff for like 4 hours on a Saturday. They can come and do basically trick or treat in a safe environment and have a lot of fun. So you get 5,000 people, in a parking lot. Our parking lot is exactly a quarter mile around. There's a lot of cool things we can do, but do you know how many people call us and say, we're only using you because you supported my child in baseball. We're only using you because you supported my child in cheerleading. We're only using you because we've been to the truck or treat 3 years in a row. I mean, all those things, that's the byproduct of some cool stuff we get to do for kids.
Mm-hmm. That's awesome, man. Do you have somebody internally that kind of runs that? Is this your favorite thing to do? Just thinking of these ideas, or is it like a team effort, or does it just kind of happen organically?
It's really a team effort. The idea came about, and then somebody throws the idea out at a leadership team, and then somebody else says, well, we can also do this. We can also do this. And then next year, someone's really passionate about, those powder 5K runs. Why don't we have a powder 5K run? And so I said, hey, you can do it as long as you run it, because, I don't need one more thing on my plate to worry about. And they ran with it, and it was very successful. I mean, the first year we had like over 50, people participating in it, which is pretty decent, that donated 100%. By the way, 100% of the proceeds to the truck or treat goes to the foundation, and so did the powder run. So, we're not doing golf outings or anything like that, but we're doing little events that feeds the foundation so we can just help more and more kids. That's
so awesome. I love that.
Yeah.
But I challenge contractors, find your passion. I mean, if you can't tell I'm passionate about it, find your passion. Don't copy off someone else just to do it. What are you passionate about? I mean, it can be anything. There's a lot of other companies that are involved in different charities that maybe they were, maybe it's touched their lives in some way, and they're just passionate about giving to it. And that's great, but they need to bring their team in, get their team involved in it. There's just all kinds of charities, and there's all kinds of people that need our help. And I challenge contractors at every boot camp we have, sponsor Little League teams. When you go to a Little League team nowadays, they're playing team A, team B, team C. You know why? Because they don't have a sponsor. And it's cool to get your, the first year I did it, me and my wife, we would go to the games, took the kids out to Dairy Queen, but what was cool is having my name on a hat in the first year in business, watching these kids play with my name on their hats. There's just something about that, I mean, I wish I knew how many kids use us today that we sponsored their little league team, 20, 25 years ago. That would be cool to know.
Mm-hmm.
Wow. I love that you've done it all the way from the very beginning, because I was actually going to mention, some people will say, oh, well, when we hit 2 million or 3 million, then I'll have the extra money to start giving. Every little bit counts, even if it's just time that you're giving in the beginning. But every little bit helps. Just start doing it now, because it's a little bit more challenging to start sharing whatever you do, 1% of your profits, when you're a $10 million company, if you haven't done it before, than it is to just start from the very, very beginning.
Exactly. It's just if you start with the same percentage, just like marketing and advertising, if you start with the same percentage you want to spend, you can change the percentage. I did Ken Goodrich challenged me on that the other day, and he was like, one year you might just want to spend more. And I actually had done that one year, and I go, we actually, sales were up that year. Anyway, but if you start with 5 to 8% and you just stick with that, you're not changing your percentage. Hopefully the numbers keep going up and you spend more, but if you just stick to a percentage, you'll be fine. And same way with giving. It's part of our charity, it's part of our donations, all that kind of stuff. If you gradually work into it, if you just have a budget for that, it's a budget, and that's what it's for. But you have to also wrote several articles on this. You have to have a heart rather for giving, and you have to care enough to give. And if you're just doing it for publicity, save your money. Just save your money. It's fake, and it won't stick. But if you're truly doing it to help people, it'll stick, and it'll be very strong. And to me, it's part of a ministry per se. It's just helping people, and that's what we do. And I've got a lot of team members that are very into it now, after they see how many kids. When you get a letter from a child, which we've got drawers, we keep them because they're powerful, and it's powerful. Thank you for helping my family. We've never had a bed to sleep on until now. We were part of a group that helped kids buy beds. When I found out kids didn't have beds, how many people don't have beds? Kids were sleeping on the floor. So we got involved in this thing, and we bought hundreds of beds for kids. And you get a letter from a kid that says, "Thank you, now I have a bed." What do you say to that?
Yeah.
Wow. It's talk about just feeling more fulfilled, right? Feeling more fulfilled at what you're doing. Last question I have about this whole community thing, and Davis, you can go where. No, I love it. This is exactly what these things always go in the perfect way that they're supposed to. That's why we don't put a lot of structure around them, because you just never know.
Right.
But last thing about the community and the involvement is, you've mentioned a couple of times how much you have your team be a part of this, and how involved your team is, and that the whole company gives. What are some things that you do to get the team involvement? Like, for somebody that's listening that doesn't do this yet and is interested in doing it, like, it can be a little scary to start getting your team involved initially. Like, how do you do that? Or just give some tips on how to get your team more involved.
First of all, you need to get to know your team as much as you can. If you're a bigger company, your managers need to get to know your teams, and they need to know their people. And we have company meetings once a quarter, and we meet with the company, and that might be a question that's on a piece of paper, that what charity are you passionate about, and how could the McAfee Foundation help that charity? We've had a couple of people call us on it and say, Shoes for Shoeless, we got involved in that through an employee, and the foundation wrote a check, and he donated it, and he was actually out there working in it, helping kids size shoes. It's a ministry basically, where they help kids that need shoes. But he was very passionate about that. So you just ask your team, you find out what they're passionate about, and if you can help them in any way, then of course it's a win-win. And get involved with them. We have sponsored employees, children's events, baseball games, basketball stuff, motocross, BMX. There's a lot of stuff.
Wow.
You just got to be ready for it, because when you start doing that, then it kind of opens the door. Well, you sponsored, Joe's kids, you're going to sponsor mine, so you got to be ready for that.
Yeah, awesome. Thank you. Love that.
Sure.
So, Greg, I kind of want to pivot this more into the mindset development / what we're seeing as an industry right now and moving forward, because you as a coach and as a host of a podcast and as somebody that runs these boot camps, you interface with a lot of HVAC business owners and managers and operators. And obviously coming out of 2020, there was a whole lot of certainty. Everybody was kind of didn't know what was going to happen the next month or even the next week sometimes. And now we're dealing with, a lot of natural market demand and not a whole lot of opportunity to hire, or that's a big pain point is retention and recruitment. So I just kind of want to pick your brain on this as somebody that, again, talks to all these owners. Like, what kind of advice do you give to owners when they're dealing with uncertainty? And let's start there. And I've got a couple more questions, but yeah.
Well, when I start training people, I have them write down 3 things, and I do over the phone coaching. I've probably been doing it for 10 years. It started with writing articles in national publications, which led to, do you coach or consult, which led to, do you do boot camps or seminars? And that's how we started the business boot camp. And so when I start coaching, I ask them, there's a list of 3 biggest issues in your life and your business. Mm-hmm. Because really coaching is not just about business. I mean, and it's the same way with my team. My team, when I do, we call it TWG during a company meeting. It's 1 hour with Greg, time with Greg, TWG. And what I talk about is certainly going to be about business, but it's also going to be about changing the way people think and touching hearts. And that's kind of what we do all across the board with our commercials, with our foundation, all that kind of stuff. But I ask them for 3 things. And a lot of times guys say, I'm lacking confidence. And here they are, a business owner, and they're lacking confidence. So the first thing we got to work on is how are you going to gain confidence as a leader? Because you're a leader. I don't care if you're first generation, second generation, or third generation, you're leading. And I've had one company who was doing over 15 million at the time, was 3 times my size at the time, came to my boot camps because he was third generation and he didn't know what he was doing. And he just needed to know, he needed to put some of our little systems in place so he could get to the next level. So sometimes guys, it's not their size. It's, you could be in a location that you're going to be busy no matter who you are. And that's wonderful, but you've got to be confident in what you do. Your team's not going to be confident if you're not confident. And that's one of the things I say all the time. And that can trickle down to if you're not on time coming into the office, then I can show you a team that's probably not going to be on time. Mm-hmm. If you're haphazard in things you do, I can show you a team that's going to do the same thing on their job. Mm-hmm. So you set the pace. The leader sets the pace. The leader shares with his team what the expectation is. And that's basically number 2. Leaders do not set expectations enough. And people come on board and they have no idea what their expectation is. And we've been guilty of that. I've tried to improve it, but we've been guilty of that because I just think everybody knows. And that's what most business owners, we just think they know. Well, it's a heating and air conditioning company. You ought to know what to do. No, they don't know what to do. They don't know what you expect. And when you explain or share expectations, you'll see your business soar because now people get it. We've had guys, you can see their eyes light up in a meeting like, I get it now. And all this time, they were just coming in, doing a job. Now they get it. And so confidence, expectations, and just why are you here? Why are we in business? Is it just to provide? I'm glad I can provide jobs, but is it just to provide a job, or again, is it to serve people?
Mhm.
Because for us, it's really about, now is my 100% of my team on board for this? Probably not. I'd love to tell you 100% of my team are all about serving people. I can tell you probably 90% are. 90% are, and other people have to see it or get it, and eventually they get on board. But it's just serving people. And when you start serving people and putting their needs above your own and fixing a scratch on a wall that a room you weren't even in, when you start doing stuff like that and your employees see it, like, wow, you're fixing a hose spigot on the side of the house, you never turn the water on. People are like, wow, that guy really cares. I mean, he's going out of his way to help people, or they might just think avoid a conflict. But basically, it's just serving people.
Yeah.
Does that help?
And what I'm hearing is it comes back to those core principles that we started with, right? It's like, yeah, there's always going to be uncertainty, but if you listed those three things, those three core things that regardless of what's going on, those are core fundamentals to running your business through any storm or anything that you're going to come across. It's funny. It's kind of a common theme, Stephen, that I keep kind of asking these questions to probe, like, how do different people look at this, especially really successful people? And they all kind of have the same response. It's like, just stick to do what's right. Like, that is kind of a core quote that we get all the time. So, Greg, no, I love that. It's very much in line.
Yeah, I think those are super, super powerful. I mean, what I pull out of that is, Davis, your question was, or the question was kind of like people that lack confidence, right? Lacking confidence was one of these first things. Well, sometimes we don't need to go out and read 10 books on how to become more confident. What we need to do is those exact things that Greg shared. Pick a couple of those things, like actually care, serve people, do what's right, set and share expectations. And instead of trying to go out and learn confidence, do these things and you will build confidence. You will build leadership skills. That's a really important piece, because I think especially in today's information world, where we have access to basically every piece of information anywhere in the world at our fingertips in a second, we can have information overload. We can get too much, right? We think we have to solve this problem in some shiny object, magic bullet way, but that's not the case. It's do these things consistently, and then you build that skill of it over time. And then people see you doing it, and now, they have more respect for you. They're more willing to follow you as a leader. So I think that's a really important point. Geez, man, how many books out there are actually good and are right information? And then how many books are just written by somebody that's trying to be a marketing and sales hack that put together a book in 10 minutes about confidence? Like, you have to be cautious of the information that you're putting into your brain, and you have to choose wisely what those sources are. Choose wisely when you're putting information into your brain.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, well, that's funny. Earlier you said two things. You said you don't have to read 1,000 books, and I get made fun of from my two brothers that I have read over 1,000 books, and they come up with all kinds of jokes about this. But anyway, I've read over 1,000 books, and there are some really good books, and they're probably behind me. Some of my best books I put up. The other ones are on a shelf somewhere else. But you also said that it was simple. My things that I said earlier were simple. And I had one guy say, my first book I wrote, and by the way, my first book was my first book. I took the book and then I changed it and tweaked it and tried to make it better and made it into my second book. But someone said, your principles are too simple. You're too simple of a person. And I said, I totally agree. They're very simple, but try implementing them all. See, that's where the rubber meets the road. Yeah, it might sound simple to take care of people. Try it sometime.
Yeah.
See how simple it is, because everybody has problems, and people are people. I first heard this saying in a church setting, where a church is a perfect place until the first person walks in. And the same way with a business. A business is a perfect place until you start having people come in, and it's no longer perfect. So it's hard working with people, but you've got to, if you care enough. I told someone today, it just came out of the blue. I said, you know what? Love them anyway. Meaning just do the right thing anyway, even if they're not happy about it. Just love them anyway. Let's work through this and move on. And you have to do that with customers. You know, the customer's always right, no matter how wrong they are. And you work through it.
I love that. I don't know. Have you read the Four Agreements?
I have not.
Okay, that's so go on the theme of this simpleness, right? There's four agreements, and it's basically if you follow these four things, which I have them always sitting next to my computer. It's be impeccable with your word, don't take anything personally, don't make assumptions, and always do your best. And they're so simple. And I was watching an interview with like Tom Brady or somebody. He said, "Yep." He goes, "I just read this book a long time ago, and this is just what I do, just this book." And but it's hard. I mean, it's really hard to do those four things all day, every day. And you know, some days I do better than others, but you're right. It's just pick the simple things,
right,
and try to do them. They're not always easy.
Yeah, I'd rather read a simple book. I mean, I'd rather, you know, if it's too difficult, I'm just a heating and air guy. I'm not going to read it. I just need simple things to help me do better. And a lot of things you read, you might already know it or heard of it anyway, but everybody needs a refresher course, and everybody needs it told a little bit differently. And you just need to constantly improve, you know, the Kaizen concept, just constantly improve every day.
The four most dangerous words in the English language. I already know that. Right?
That's right.
It's, you know, somebody reads a book, they're like, "I already know that." Well, you might know it up here, but you're sure not doing it out there.
That's right.
Yeah.
That's for sure. And then, you know, you guys get stagnant. They hit the cap. They hit the law of the lid, John Maxwell calls it. But because they quit reading, they quit going to seminars. I just talked about this in my podcast yesterday. They think they've got it all. They've got it made. They know it all, and nobody ever knows it all. I mean, I use Ken Goodrich because I just visited his place in Las Vegas last week. You know, and they're a $170 million plus company, and he still goes to seminars and he still gets advice. I mean, he's not even close to knowing it all, and he'll tell you that. I mean, smart guy, but always learning.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's a key of a really great leader. Always willing to question things, always willing to learn. I mean, I'm a huge believer that every person I come in contact with, I have something I can learn from them, whether it's a homeless person, whether it's, you know, a billionaire, whether it's a minister. I mean, it just doesn't matter. There's always something that I can learn from them. And I try to remember that, especially in situations that are maybe a little bit more challenging, like maybe I don't really want to be there as bad as I thought I did. I try to look at it through a different lens and say, okay, like what's one thing that I can learn from this person? And it changes it flips the script on everything, and it makes me more inquisitive and curious, and you know, helps me relate to people.
You become a better listener.
Man, that's why we got 2 ears and 1 mouth, right?
That's right. That's right. It was probably 1992. I'd been in business 2 years, and somehow I got on this street with just huge homes, multi-million-dollar homes. I don't know how. And somebody referred me, and they just started calling me. And this guy owned like 7 nursing homes. And so he was in the house. He was probably, I don't know, in his 70s at the time. And I said, "Can you give a young businessman any advice?" And he goes, "You have a problem, son?" I go, "No, I'm new. I'm just wanting advice." He goes, "Yeah." He said, "I'll give you the best advice I can give you." He said, "Take multiple 3 and 4 day vacations. You don't need weeks. You don't need 2 weeks, but take multiple ones per year. It will help you. It will help your family. It will help your business." And I latched onto that. And that's what we did. I mean, we took, 4 or 5, 6, whatever it was, 3 and 4 day weekends, and went away and, with family. And that really helped me. Little did I find out, little did I know later that he was on his 3rd marriage. So he probably found out the hard way. And that was the best advice he could give me. And we still do it today.
Well, I mean, what's the point of doing all this stuff that we're doing if you're not also enjoying the rest of what life has to offer?
Yeah.
And you're giving yourself that recovery time and the fulfillment time and getting out and seeing different things. And our brains work by connecting things, right? So even just going on vacation, you see all these things and you get new perspective on stuff at business or personal, and just the fulfillment and the fun side. I mean, why do all this if we're not having fun as well?
Right. Totally agree.
Well, I can't think of a better way to close this out. We are almost at time, guys, but man, that was an awesome way to end it. So I guess before I close it out totally, Greg, is there any closing thoughts that you have? Again, I mean, in terms of advice, you hit the nail on the head, but I just want to give you the opportunity to have, a closing statement or any additional thoughts for our audience.
I always like to end with, stay strong. And there's things going to happen in a day that most people couldn't handle, and leaders have to handle it. And, we deal with a lot of stuff that could, that happens in a day or happens in a week. And we just have to fix it and move on and move on to the next thing. You can't get stuck. You can't get stuck on your problems, because you're always going to have problems. You always need to have something to look forward to. I learned that from a book I read called Man's Search for Meaning. And you always got to have something to look forward to each day. So whether it's, that cup of coffee, I don't care what it is, look forward to something the next day before you go to bed, and it'll make a difference in your life. But just stay strong and don't quit. Keep going. Too many opportunities to quit.
Love that.
Yeah. Steven, I saw you taking some notes there. Do you have any recaps for us?
Do I have recaps? Yeah, I got a couple. So yeah, before I run through a couple recaps, Greg, do you want to share with people how they can find out more about you, the boot camps, just if they wanted to connect with you?
Sure. Well, the book's called Build and Grow Your HVAC Business, and anything about me can be found at gregmcafee.com. Everything's on there. We're cleaning up the website here soon and going to update it a little bit, but the book's on there, my boot camps are on there, and my podcast is called The Greg McAfee Show, and we're on our 26th podcast, so it's all new. I think I'm getting better at it each time, but I just talk like this on my podcast, and I do have it set up now. We're going to start interviewing some people, but we just talk about business, and we just talk about life, and we just talk about how to be better, and I think everybody needs that.
Yeah, I love that. Well, those are all my favorite topics. I love hearing that that's what you're sharing. I think that's super important right now in the industry. You can share a lot of the very specific advice about how to grow the business, and that's great. But the overarching mindset and confidence building and leadership, I mean, those I feel like are really the foundational things that are by far the most important. They seem simple concepts, but you've really got to work to integrate them and live by them. So I love that that's what you guys are teaching. Cool. All right. Well,
thanks for all you guys do, by the way. Thanks for all you guys do.
Yeah. Thank you so much. We appreciate it.
A little bit of us to just continue to raise the bar. I can tell you some cool stories how we've just raised the bar in our industry right here in Dayton, how it's changed in 20 years. You don't see dirty trucks. You don't see stuff all over dashboards. You see shoe protectors now, and all that stuff. We pushed it hard, and we changed the look of HVAC.
That's so great, and something to be so proud of, right? I mean, you can be very proud of that, and I love that you're humble, but you also seem to do a good job of taking that in and allowing yourself to feel proud of it. That's great. I think that that's a very important balance to live a fulfilling life. Very cool. Well, I didn't mention it, but Davis, I don't even know if you know, I was actually born in Dayton. So interesting little side topic. I only lived there till I was about 5 or 6, and then to Florida. But Dayton, I have a Buckeye that my parents got when I was born, And I still have it. It's crazy, like 40 years later. So,
Yeah.
so Dayton's got a little special place in my heart, even though I it's been a long time since I've been there, but
Right. Cool.
it is special. So awesome.
Good enough.
Yeah, absolutely. So Davis, awesome interview, I think, today with Greg. I'll go through a couple of my recaps real quick that I got out of it. I love that we got to talk about community involvement. And I love that Greg shared how, this is something that he did from the very, very beginning. And it was, picking something that he was really passionate about and then getting his whole team and his company involved behind it and just always doing something with it and always coming up with new creative ideas and letting his team kind of have an involvement in that. And not being afraid to share that information publicly from just a standpoint of, hey, here's what we're doing. We care about the community. I think that's really important for other companies to look at. Another one was actually care, take care of people, and serve people. So sometimes what seems really simple is not always easy to do. And so, like Greg mentioned, you might say, oh, well, that's too simple to take care of people and serve people. Well, go into your business for the next week, go into your community for the next week and actively be a participant, serving and caring for people. It's not as easy as it may seem. Trust me, I know. I have weeks where I recognize I might not be doing it as good as I could, and it takes a little bit of time to turn. I love what they do about all the profits go back into their community. So everything that, that they're producing stays within their community. And, you've seen the really cool things, like they've changed the HVAC industry in Dayton completely to where you see dirty trucks and stuff on dashboards, and now it's shoe covers and it's just doing it right. So all those proceeds go back. Pick a charity that you are committed to, that you're actually excited about. And I liked everything he said around like the three biggest issues in building confidence, setting and sharing expectations. I think that those things are really, really important key takeaways to just take a step back and look, am I doing this in my business? Am I doing this as a leader? All right. I think those are my big takeaways.
Beautiful. Well, thank you so much, Greg, again for joining us. For our audience, definitely go check out gregmcafee.com and his podcast, The Greg McAfee Show. To continue this discussion, join the Home Service Success and Marketing Facebook group or check out witdelivers.com. All right. Thanks so much for listening and have an awesome rest of your day.